Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started with the online meeting here. There may be a few more that join us here in the next few minutes. So thank you for joining us for the online presentation and the live question and answer session about the planned improvements to the Interstate 15 Gore Hill Interchange, exit 277 in Great Falls. The Montana Department of Transportation is using online meetings and presentations to engage the public rather than in-person meetings due to community health and safety concerns during the COVID-19 pandemic. We look forward to meeting in person again in the future. During today's online session, MDT and project team members will present the planned improvements, new design features, and the next steps in the project. The presentation will take about 20 to 30 minutes. Following the presentation, a live question and answer session will be held to answer your questions. So in order to participate in the Q&As, you should locate the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen, and it'll pop up a box that you can type into. You can submit your questions during the presentation, all throughout the presentation. You can submit those questions, and then we'll hold all the questions as they come in and then answer them at the end of the presentation. The online sessions will be recorded, and a copy of the recording will be posted on the project website. We invite you to please invite your neighbors and coworkers and friends that couldn't attend the session to view the presentation and participate in an online survey that's on the project website. And that address is www.mdt.gov/pubinvolve/Gore Hill. And from that page, you can click on a button for public meetings and involvement. We'll show that address again at the end of the presentation. The online survey will be available till October 27th, and then we will report out. So again, thank you for joining us today. And now I would like to turn over the microphone to the MDT District Administrator from the Great Falls District, Jim Wingerter.
Thank you, Brandon. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this unique format that we have now during these unique times to get information out to our friends and the public about our upcoming projects. I am Jim Wingerter, the Great Falls District Administrator for the Department of Transportation. We're going to go through some information here tonight, show you kind of what the issues are, how we got to where we are, what we're looking at, and kind of where we are right now and what our future plan is. We have our team with us here tonight. We have a number of people here with the Department of Transportation and Robert Pesce and Associates. We have brought on RPA, Robert Pesce and Associates, as a consultant design firm to help us get through this process. And as we go through this, you might wonder why we have consultants working on this project and why are we not doing it on our own as MDT. MDT does maintain a staff with the resources and technical expertise to tackle most all projects and issues that we come across in our design process. But there are times when we don't have the resources, or maybe we run into a situation with technical expertise that we need a little bit of help, outside helps, and RPA are the folks that we brought on to give us a hand with this project. We have some staffing issues here in our design unit that they're a little overwhelmed right now, and MDT has asked RPA to come on and give us a hand with these design. They are part of our design team. They are essentially part of the project. We have consultants that we kind of oversee what they're doing and work hand in hand with their plans and advice, and we have the back and forth together. So while we are two separate entities, we are one on this project here. And I'd like to introduce the folks that are here with us tonight. I'll go through and call on those folks that will be helping with this presentation and answering questions later on. First, we have Jimmy Combs.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here. My name is Jimmy Combs, and I am the MDT Great Falls District Pre-Construction Engineer.
Thank you, Jimmy. Kelly Williams.
Yeah, good evening. I'd also like to thank everybody for taking the time to attend this meeting this evening. My name is Kelly Williams. I am the Consultant Design Project Manager for MDT.
Thank you, Kelly. Stan Breland.
Good evening. Stan Breland, Traffic Operations Engineer with the Montana Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Stan. April Girth.
Hello, everyone. I'm April Girth from the consultant Robert Petchin Associates, and I am the design engineer responsible for plans development for the project.
Thank you, April. Scott Randall.
Yeah, hi. I'm also with RPA, and I'm a traffic engineer, and my role on this project has been to help with identifying and evaluating improvements for the interchange.
Thank you, Scott. Brandon Coates.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Brandon Coates, and I am with RBCI. We're a sub-consultant to MDT. Our role is to help communicate the project information to the public and take the public's input back to the project team to be incorporated into the design.
Thank you, Brandon. And Kate Reed.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kate Reed with RBCI, and I work also with Brandon to do the outreach, and we are, I'm helping with the Q&As tonight.
Thank you, Kate. And just so you folks know that while we have RPA and MDT working hand in hand on this project, we are also keeping the city of Great Falls well informed of where we are on this project, what we're looking at for design options, and keeping them involved in this process too, as they are part of our team as we walk through this project. So let's get started. Let's go through a couple things, bring you up to date, kind of where we are, how we got here, and where we're kind of going with things in the future. So MDT currently is developing some solutions to improvements at the I-15 Gore Hill interchange. A number of issues that have brought about the development of improvements up there. We're seeing a significant amount of traffic increase up there due to the Great Falls International Airport, the Montana Air National Guard locations. We're seeing a lot of commercial and industrial developments taking place up there in that area, and there are more planned for the future. And also we're seeing some residential developments now and some plan for the future in that area. So this area is seeing a significant amount of traffic increase, which is contributing to some congestion, some delays, some issues up there that we're trying to address. Some of the problems with this area is the tight spacing, the intersections near the interchange, and also the short distances between Gore Hill and the 10th Avenue South interchange, creating problems with some large trucks navigating these intersections on Gore Hill, and also with merging onto the I-15 ramps there are creating some problems also. So the purpose of this project then is to reduce delays, improve traffic flow, and improve the safety on I-15 at the Gore Hill interchange and the interstate between 10th Avenue South and Gore Hill. So how we got to this spot we're in right now is in 2015 we commissioned the Gore Hill I-15 to Emerson Junction corridor planning study. And this planning study pointed out a number of issues that we've encountered, and we kind of went through here the last screen, but we encountered these problems, these concerns, these issues we're having up there. And the study identified a couple of preliminary improvements that we need to look at. on the Gore Hill interchange and along the southbound auxiliary lane from 10th Avenue South to Gore Hill interchange. So in 2018, along with this 2015 corridor study, the long-range transportation plan was updated with the city of Great Falls, and we began the work to address these issues and come up with a plan to how we are going to deal with these in the coming years. So we looked at what our options were, where we're going to go, what we're going to do. And in 2018, as I've mentioned, we did hire RPA as our associates to perform a detailed study and begin some traffic analysis on this project. And from this, we have 4 recommended improvements that have come out of this study. The first being 2 roundabouts at the northbound and southbound ramps, rerouting the Tri-Hill frontage road, and adding an auxiliary southbound lane on the 10th Avenue South to Gore Hill location. This information was presented at a public meeting in 2019, and out of that public meeting, so you're wondering, well, we're listening to this, what good are we going to do? You're looking at some issues. How can we have a say? Out of this public meeting in 2019, a 5th improvement was also discussed and agreed upon, and we're looking at that, and that was a new interchange overpass bridge. So those are 5 improvements we're looking at. The bridge, 2 roundabouts, rerouting Tri-Hill frontage road, and adding that southbound auxiliary lane between 10th Avenue South and Gore Hill. We're in the process right now of kind of putting together our final design plans with RPA. We're kind of narrowing some things down and kind of looking at some harder and maybe scratching some off the list. So we're in that final design phase right now. In 2021, we're going to present our final designs to the public. And when we finalize all those plans and we start the process, we'll get this thing programmed and get a construction set date. At the present time, we don't have a date set, but we're looking out probably to the 25, 26, 27 construction seasons of maybe getting this construction project underway. So with that, I'd like to ask April to step in and kind of discuss some of these design plans and ideas that we're looking at and kind of pushing to the forefront. So April, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. As Jim discussed in the previous section, MDT carried forward 5 improvement options from the original study to address the safety and operations needs that were identified at the interchange. And then 4 of these concepts were presented at a public meeting in 2019. So prior to that, we did do a study that we looked at pretty much every option we could come up with for this interchange, including stop signs, traffic signals, and roundabouts, and vetted all of those different options back when we were doing the planning study and the corridor study. So these 5 options that we carried forward had been already evaluated and brought to the public prior to the 2019 public meeting. But at the 2019 public meeting, after obtaining additional public input and evaluating how these combined options met the needs of the project and the priorities that the community had expressed, it was determined that the preferred alternatives we had did best solve the identified issues. The 5th option we're talking about, I mentioned 4 of these concepts were presented at a public meeting. The 5th was an expansion of the bridge, which I'll discuss later. So the project has several components, including building a wider overpass structure with room for a sidewalk, single lane roundabouts with truck aprons at the on and off ramp intersections, and an additional southbound lane on I-15 and relocation of the Tri-Hill frontage road to the south. So I'll discuss each of these options in a little more detail in the next few slides. So the initial project proposed to leave the existing structure in place and connect the new intersection improvements to the old bridge. But after evaluating the comments that we received from the public and discussing the current maintenance issues we have now with the MDT snowplow staff, MDT determined that a new structure would be beneficial and worth the additional cost. Additionally, maintaining traffic over the interstate during construction is mandatory since there's no other access to the airport and the other emergency services located at Gore Hill. So keeping that access open while widening or connecting to the existing bridge would have been very difficult. So the new structure will be built offset to the east of the current overpass so that traffic can remain on the existing bridge during construction and will minimize impacts to everyone trying to get through and minimize delays. So the new bridge will be wider. It'll include 12-foot wide travel lanes. It'll have 8-foot wide shoulders and a new sidewalk on the west side. And the wider bridge design will better accommodate large trucks. It'll reduce our maintenance efforts and provide safer crossing for pedestrians and bikes. And as mentioned previously, MDT and RPA evaluated a range of improvement options, including traffic signals, roundabouts, and stop signs, to determine the best way to improve safety and traffic operations at the interchange intersections. And after evaluating each option for traffic flow and operations, the delay to the drivers, safety, pedestrian accessibility, benefit versus cost, constructability, the single lane roundabouts option were identified as the alternative that really best performed and met the needs identified by MDT and the public. And the roundabouts will improve safety and traffic flow of the interchange while limiting costs and impacts. So these roundabouts will only have one lane. The southbound off-ramp is the only exception, as it will have 2 lanes, one for drivers trying to go left and through, and one for right turns only, similar to how it is now at the intersection. What this does is allow the traffic turning right onto Airport Road to not have to stop or even enter the roundabout, and they'll not be held up by traffic that's trying to turn left. So in addition to the sidewalk on the bridge, new sidewalk will extend from the north roundabout to just beyond the south roundabout to tie into the commercial area by Town Pump. The sidewalk will be at least 5 foot wide and will meet the standards of the Americans with Disabilities Act requirements for accessibility for the visually and physically impaired. So these roundabouts have also been designed to accommodate large trucks. The center island has a truck apron, which is shown in dark red on the graphic, and the intent of this apron is to allow the rear tires of the trailer of a semi to track into the center area of the roundabout as the driver steers around the outside travel lane where all the cars are. And the apron is really low and almost flat, so trucks can easily mount the curb with minimal load shift and driver discomfort. Most oversized loads will be able to pass through the roundabouts as well. And as design of the roundabouts progress, extra truck aprons, likely on the outside of the curb, will be provided to fit even the largest trucks on the road. So another benefit of these roundabouts for large trucks is their ability to keep traffic moving and not require a hard stop. So in a traditional stop sign intersection like it was before, or now I should say, trucks have to come to a complete stop and then they move forward incrementally as the cars ahead of them turn onto the main road one at a time. And a similar situation occurs if there were a traffic signal and it were red. So the additional time it takes for the truck to go through all the gears and pick up speed after coming to a complete stop really slows traffic flow and increases the length of the lines of cars behind the truck waiting to enter. So a roundabout allows for trucks to continue moving, although sometimes very slowly, so a complete stop is rarely necessary. And you'll see skilled truck drivers, so they'll carefully evaluate gaps in traffic as they pull up to the roundabout so they time their entry to eliminate stopping. So this allows for better traffic flow, decreases emissions and fuel usage. An additional southbound lane will be constructed on I-15 between the 10th Avenue South and the Gore Hill interchanges. The close proximity of the two interchanges, as well as the steep grade when you're headed south, causes trucks especially to struggle to gain speed and merge into the faster moving traffic after they enter at 10th Avenue South. And also making this section even more difficult is the fact that approximately half of the cars that get on the interstate at 10th Avenue South exit again at Gore Hill. So an additional lane will allow those vehicles to either remain on the outside and not merge into traffic, just to exit again, and for the trucks to gain speed before they have to merge into the faster traffic. So the additional lane will end at the Gore Hill interchange. Improvements will also be made to the northbound on-ramp at Gore Hill, but we aren't sure on the extent of those modifications just yet. And during analysis of how traffic uses the current Gore Hill interchange, it was noted that the northbound ramp intersection was really congested and had a lot of turning paths that conflicted with each other. So the close proximity of the frontage road creates some confusion and often causes cars on the frontage road to have to wait for vehicles not only on 31st Street Southwest, but on the northbound off-ramp as well. So to alleviate that congestion and make the entire area function much more smoothly, the Tri-Hill frontage road would be relocated to the south to just beyond the town pump. So starting just past Bish's RV on the frontage road, the road would swing to the right and then connect up further down 31st Street Southwest. So in addition to relieving congestion, moving the frontage road allows for more intersection options at the northbound ramps and provides better accommodations for trucks. So that about covers the proposed changes. I'm going to turn this over to Sam Breland from MDT to explain a little bit more about why we selected roundabouts for these intersections.
Thank you, April. Again, I'm Stan Breland, Traffic Operations Engineer. After performing an in-depth safety and traffic analysis of the current and future conditions of the intersections, MDT has determined roundabouts will serve these intersection locations better than signalized intersections. Roundabouts largely reduce severe crashes because they limit dangerous right impact or T-bone collisions, and they promote a smooth, continuous flow of traffic. Roundabouts with truck aprons give trucks and other large commercial vehicles extra space to safely make turns. The truck apron is specially designed with a flat slope and low height to accommodate low clearance vehicles and trailers. Roundabouts provide a continuous flow of traffic and a natural traffic calming effect by forcing drivers to slow down and pay attention to their surroundings. Roundabout studies by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety and the Federal Highway Administration show that roundabouts typically achieve a 90% reduction in fatal crashes, 75% reduction in injury crashes, 40% reduction in pedestrian crashes, and 37% reduction in overall crashes. MDT has found similar safety results at intersections in Montana where roundabouts have been installed. Roundabouts also result in fewer delays, fewer stops, and less fuel consumption than stoplights and stop signs. Now I'm going to turn it over to Brandon Coates to discuss the next steps in the project and the public involvement aspects. Brandon?
Thank you, Stan. I'd like to remind everybody that is attending that you are free to submit questions to the project team. There's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that and you can ask a question. And again, we'll hold those questions until the end of the presentation, and then we'll answer them. So you can submit those at any time. So public involvement is collected as part of this online meeting and through the online survey, and continued environmental and design analysis will all be used to finalize the design plans and then begin to develop the construction plans. MDT will hold an in-person public meeting if possible in the future to share any future public or share any information about the project, and then also to gather information that'll help with the development of the construction plans. So the next public meeting we have planned is for 2021 to present the final design, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person at that time. If not, we will continue with the online meeting formats. So a construction date is largely dependent on the funding availability upon the completion of the design. As Jim mentioned earlier, it's likely to take place beyond the year 2025. MDT is planning to use a variety of methods to communicate with the public throughout the design and the construction of the project. Some of those methods include these online meetings. We'll still plan on trying to do in-person meetings, project mailers, working with the news media, social media, email and text messaging, especially during construction. And always we'll be placing updates on the project website. Good place for getting up-to-date information. It looks like my slideshow quit moving, so there we go. So we posted a survey online on the project website, and you can see the link there to access it. And one of the ways you could really help us out is to participate in that online survey. It's not going to take very long. There's some questions about the improvements and the intersection, and then we also have some questions there on how the best ways to communicate with you both now and also during construction. So you can access that website on the project website or MDT's Facebook page, and then that survey will help us to finalize the design plans and the construction plans as well. So communicating with the public during the development of the project and construction is important to the success of the project. If you have friends or neighbors that were unable to participate in the online meeting sessions, you can send them to the project website where they can view a recording of the presentation. We held this presentation on Tuesday, and that recording is up already. And they can also take the online survey there, so they can get the same information that you're receiving now and take the survey to provide comment for us. Again, MDT would like to thank you for participating in the development of the project. If you have any questions or comments at any time during the project, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is there. Again, I'm Brandon Coates, and I'm doing public involvement. And my email is brandon@rbci.net, and my phone number is there as well. That information is all on the project website also. So with that, I think we will end the presentation portion and we'll move into the Q&A session. So Kate, have we received any questions?
Brandon, yes, we've got a couple here. So we have one from Christy, and she's asking, did MDT consider an interchange such as the Y near Missoula? And I believe Scott was going to, April and Scott were both going to talk about that, so I'll hand it over to them.
Thanks, Kate. So I'm not entirely sure what you're referencing with the Y in Missoula, but I'm going to talk about some different interchange options, and hopefully that covers your question. First, though, I want to talk about the traffic of turning left from the ramp onto the roundabout. And Brandon, could you move us back to one of the graphics with the roundabout on it? So one of the things that roundabouts do extremely well is allow for left-hand turn movements. And I should first start with saying roundabouts are not perfect for every location, but they do suit really, really well when you have a really hard time getting people to be able to turn left onto a main roadway. And the reason for that is that whoever is in the roundabout has the right of way, always. That's always the rule. So if you pull up to a roundabout, you look to your left and you only allow traffic that's in the roundabout. You wait for them, but after that you go ahead and pull in. So if you look at this roundabout and you see somebody, imagine yourself coming off the interstate, you're going to take that left-hand turn. So you're going to have to wait for the traffic that's coming across the bridge towards the airport, which is generally pretty light except for early in the morning. So you'd be pretty easy to get on. So here's the benefit. Once you're in, everyone else has to wait for you. So the traffic coming from the airport or from the prison has to wait for you. So instead of the way it is now, where that heavy prison airport traffic holds up everyone else and doesn't allow them to enter onto the 31st Street, now this will be more of a priority, and it will much ease the traffic that's backing up down the ramp, which is really, really dangerous. We need to clear that traffic and get it off the interstate. And so this roundabout will allow for that traffic to be almost free moving. So now I'm going to try to hit the question on the why. I'm trying to think of the different interchanges coming into Missoula, and I'm wondering if maybe it would be more like a clover leaf. And so some of the issues that we're having problems with in this location is that as you're pulling off the interstate on that southbound off ramp, to your right, you'll notice a big cut slope, a big, where it's already been cut out for the roadway. And that slope has some pretty severe instability problems. There's some existing slides, and there's a lot of water that's seeping out of it and making it very unstable. So we don't have a lot of space to that side. If we get into that slope, not only will we probably causing some geotechnical problems with the stability of that slope, there also are some businesses and some homes up there. And to compound it further, there's a private gas station coming in on that leg too. So to create a cloverleaf interchange would take way, way more room than we have. As for the Y intersection, if that's not what you're thinking about, the only other ones I can think of are actually already being installed with roundabouts now in Missoula. 2 of the interchanges will look pretty much like this when they're done with the roundabouts on each edge. Scott, do you have anything more to answer or to respond to that?
No, I think, Christy, looks like you confirmed we're talking about the right interchange there, the one right at Y that heads to Kalispell. It is a partial clover leaf, and while they work good for some situations, April touched on it, they do take up quite a bit more space. We're actually getting away from them across the state. We try not to develop those anymore. For one, the impact range is quite a bit larger, but also there's some concerns and some challenges with speeds as you're coming on and off the ramps too. And so it requires slower speeds to make tighter circles and that sort of thing. So we did kind of look at that as an option, but again, given a lot of the constraints we have, it just wasn't a great solution.
Perfect. Thank you, April and Scott. We have another question from Chuck, and he is asking, was there any consideration to move the north roundabout further north?
Sure, I can
Scott, I'll let you.
Yeah, I'll start with that one a little bit. So you're on a good slide here, Brandon. Thank you. So, one thing, I see your comments and kind of questions about getting on to go southbound in the southbound direction. So this option is a little bit different with the roundabouts. If you are to head southbound, you can kind of see it on the graphic here, but there's actually, with this design, there's a median across that lane. So what you could do, instead of having to take a left and wait for a gap in traffic, you actually can go around the roundabout and just do a U-turn and then get on that way. And so by doing that, you're eliminating the need or having to wait for, that heavy stream of vehicles, because you could just enter that roundabout and not have to worry about cutting in front of anybody. So as far, another option that we looked at too is, instead of having that southbound on-ramp as a separate intersection, we actually looked at a larger roundabouts, a 5-legged roundabout where we would tie all those approaches together. That was one of the options that we considered. One of the biggest challenges with that was, again, it became quite a bit larger. The roundabout footprint size became larger to make it work for all the vehicles and trucks that would use it. And also we were concerned about it being confusing to drivers and could promote some movements that we didn't want to see. So this is a little bit different. I'd reiterate that piece in that, to get onto the interstate to go southbound, if you're coming from that direction over by Town Pump, you'd actually go through, over the overpass, through the roundabout to make a U-turn and then get onto the interstate as a right turn instead of a left turn.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. And I just let everybody know that please send in any of the questions and we'll answer them. It looks like we just received another one from Chuck. And Scott, hopefully you can continue. He said, so the median is raised.
April, you can go ahead with that one.
Okay, thanks. So Chuck, yes, the medians that you see on this drawing will be raised medians. And the intent of that really is to direct traffic exactly where they need to go. So there's really no confusion for anyone when they're traveling through the roundabout exactly which lane to be in and which direction that will take you. That does present a little bit of a problem for the huge oversized trucks. And so as we move further into design, we will, as I mentioned before, have to do some truck aprons potentially on the outside. Sometimes we do some curb modifications to make them just a little bit lower so that we can fit those really oversized vehicles through. So this is designed though for a regular semi that you see on the interstate all the time. And that semi will easily be able to traverse through the roundabouts without touching any of the raised medians, except for the truck apron that I talked about in the middle.
Great, thank you, April. Brandon, we don't have any other questions. Well, actually, it looks like someone just asked a question here. David asked, why is the project going to take so long when we need it now? Jim, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, this is Jim Wingeter. David, that's a great question. And not only this project, but we get asked that question a lot. Why does it take so long to develop a project and get something built? It's truly amazing and fascinating to me what we have to go through to get a project from concepts, what problems we have to address and the problems we have to solve, to when we actually have a ribbon cutting, so to speak, and we turn traffic loose on our new project. There's a lot of consideration. There's a lot of issues that we have to resolve when we start a project, such as the corridor study, identifying what is the issue, what are we looking at taking care of, what are the land use issues, what are safety issues, what are traffic issues, what are development issues. We take all these issues into account and start sorting through them and coming up with design solutions, and that in itself takes a long time to ferret out all the plans and all the thoughts and what design is going to work best to solve as many of those issues as we can. Once that design is developed and agreed upon as a final design, then we start into kind of getting the landowners, the businesses involved. We start going through right-of-way acquisitions. We go through right-of-way discussions to talk to folks about how we're going to develop their properties. How are we going to do land swaps? Are we going to purchase their properties outright? So those right-of-way acquisitions take a number of years to work through some of those also. And then once we get to the point where we have everything in place, we've got all our permits in place, we've got all our designs in place, we've got the right-of-way purchased, we can look at beginning construction. So then we start to look at what kind of constraints do we have financially. The Federal Highway Administration, especially on our interstate projects, get very involved with our federally funded projects. They fund, the Federal Highways funds between 85 and 90% of our projects, and our state funds cover the other 10 to 15%. So they get very involved, and there's a lot of hoops that we need to jump through and a lot of boxes that we need to check with federal highway programs also, to make sure that funding is going to be there for us in the future. And along with that, as most of you know, with budgeting items and monies available, and we kind of never know what the future is going to hold for us. We can speculate on what is probably going to be, but we don't know exactly what our funding levels are going to be, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So those funding levels can throw some wrenches into us too, as to when we can actually get out there and build a project and pay for contractors to be out on our projects. And again, once we get that project started, it's probably going to take at least one, potentially probably 2 construction seasons with this project, with the construction of an interstate bridge and the roundabouts, and dealing with live traffic and construction. It's going to be pretty tight up there, and be a challenging situation for those folks. So yes, it kind of seems like a long time when we say, yeah, we got some issues up there, to when, yep, we got cars on the new bridge going through the roundabout. But there's a lot of hoops and a lot of challenges that we need to work through to get those projects out the door and completed. Jim Combs, I might ask, our pre-construction engineer at MDT, would you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Sorry, I apologize. I was muted there. Yes, Jim, thank you. Just a couple things to kind of, I think you said it pretty well, Jim. A few things I guess I would add is once we have a project, it's pretty common if we have a reconstruct project, the project development, the design, the time it takes from the day we start with our pre-construction activities until it's ready, until we actually have a package put together that we can advertise for construction is typically 3 to 5 years on a reconstruct project. And as they get more complex, they oftentimes do take longer than that. And this one does have a lot of complex elements to it. So again, as far as the time goes, yeah, I recognize it can be frustrating when we're wanting to get it in ASAP, but it does take a lot of time to put a project together, and a lot of things that go into it. As we develop these projects, as they're going through design, we kind of have it broken out into 3 phases. And the first phase, we call that the survey phase. The second phase, we call it the design phase. And the third phase, we call that the right-of-way phase. And this project right now is currently in the survey phase. So we are still fairly early in the development. So again, it recognize it's can be frustrating, but it's a lot of effort that goes into putting these together, and it does take a lot of time. As Jim mentioned, we have to make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. We have to go through an environmental process and get all of our permits and have an environmental document. And we also have to secure all of the right-of-way and negotiate with all of the for any acquisitions that we have to get. So it does take it takes a lot of, and the other thing I guess I would say is that keep in mind that design is an iterative process. So it's not, especially in these reconstruct projects and projects that are this complex, there are a lot of complexities, and it is an iterative process. There's rarely a silver bullet where you just have a design and you just put it together without having to look at different options and examine different possibilities and alternatives. It is always an iterative process. And then as Jim had mentioned too, just in the end too, everything just depends on the availability of funding. There's a lot of projects within the program, and that's a whole nother effort in and of itself to be able to try to fit these projects in to be able to find the funding to fit them in and let them for construction.
Thank you, Jim and Jimmy. Appreciate it. I don't see any other questions. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to send those in now. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to Brandon.
Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for attending. I have the final slide up for you to get that project website address and my contact information as well. Again, I encourage you to go online, take our online survey, or if you'd like to submit comments to me, my email address is there as well. And yes, thank you for sharing your time with us this evening, and hopefully we will be meeting in person the next time. Thank you, everybody.